Greetings and salutations and welcome once again to the Capeless Crusaders live at the time from the safe house. Your pose was completely off camera.
My best is Steve's impression.
So it's just like, we just saw this and then it's like, what's the other arm doing? No one knows.
I was
Anyway.
pointing to Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing's over there.
My Swamp Thing shrine. My name is David Barry at Dr. Barry on varying social media platforms. You can follow me anywhere. To my left, we have.
Okay, good.
You had to do it too?
Yeah.
It wasn't just me. Okay, cool.
Hi, I am Manderson. You can follow me on Twitter at thismanderson, and I will do my best to throw in random Iron Man quotes like Steve's would do because he's not here. I don't have a mug. I'm sorry.
Do you have an Iron Man quote ready right now?
Drop my needle, Jarvis. It's from Iron Man 3 when he's trying the new.
No clapping. I give you guys one.
That was the most white guy delivery you could give. Anyway, I'm gonna toss it up and over, David.
You couldn't even go for like a peace in our times kind of a thing.
No, because he did that last time. I
That's
feel like I
fair
can't
enough.
recycle
He's
it.
very peace in our time.
Anyway, who are you over
He
there?
already lobbed it.
I did.
Hair toss law, baby. I whip my hair back and forth, but then I just look ridiculous. Hi, I'm Amy. You can find me at IJNURobot on all the social media things. Sadly, though, Gimmadin, I'm super jelly of you being a pirate all up in Sea of Thieves right now, because I have lost many a friend to those high seas.
Sea of Thieves. The new. What was the space one? What was the where the open world space one? Oh, No Man's Sky. Sea of Thieves, the new No Man's Sky, the biggest letdown and disappointment. Anyway,
also, we need to recognize we've got 2 Crusaders in the chat.
I was gonna do that.
I don't know. I just wanted to.
I always do that.
Jump on
Hey,
it.
Anthony.
Yes, there's a good Iron Man reference. Anthony. Anyway, we do have Curtis at Calm Down Warning at Existential Romeo in the chat, as well as the Azorian one, Anthony as Steve's. Go ahead and say hello, chat. Hi, chat.
Hi,
How's
chat.
things? How are you guys? Welcome. If you're watching this live on Twitch, welcome. Hit the follow button if you're already not. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, ignore the follow thing because it's not a thing. Go down and hit like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening to on the audio, you're already committed.
Hopefully you are.
Exactly. Anyway.
Hello, chat.
You can find anything related to the Capeless Crusaders at thecapelesscrusaders.com. That is your hub for anything related to us, our blog entries, our things, our website, our hoedowns, our hootenannies. That website is brought to you in part by our sponsors, Computer Booter.
Hey.
Local computer repair, mobile device repair. They're currently modding Nintendo Switches. If you want one with like see-through purple, like the old school N64 controller, they can do that for you. It probably voids the warranty. I'm not sure though. They also still have the PlayStation VR. Our other sponsor is Empire's Comics Vault. That place Amy was hanging out with today.
1120 Fulton Avenue, Sweet K.
Hot sauce now. They have hot sauce.
And it was really good.
Wait, what?
There's local hot sauce.
Okay, so
At Empires?
quick aside.
Do
Ben absolutely loves hot sauce.
Mhm.
He will buy a whole bunch of hot sauce from a whole bunch of different places, try a whole bunch, figure out what he likes. So he liked 2 local hot sauce places so much, Mayhem Mike's and F.A. Nino's, which is the godfather of sauces. A lot of this. Basically, I actually tried, I can do spicy things, but I tried hot sauce on tortillas at the shop today, and I posted it to the shop's Instagram because on Mondays I'm there and I have an obligatory requirement to post.
To taste hot sauces.
Also, the mango habanero.
Oh, I always love a good mango habanero.
Can we go in and be like, hey, I want to empty out my box and try some hot sauce?
I want comics and hot sauce.
That I think is the end goal. There are ones, if you are not like a hot sauce person, you can totally get, which is like this. It's called the red roasted or the fire roasted red from it's like sweet and it's really mild and it just I did that whole thing about talking about your palate.
This turned into a sauce commercial.
That's so saucy.
No, we're still plugging Empire's Comics.
Yeah. Well,
still
bringing it back
located
around.
at 1120 Fulton Avenue, Sweet K.
There it
Stopping
is.
for the pugs, but stay for the comics.
And the hot sauce. On this week's episode, we're of course going to go around the horn. We're going to talk about some comic books. We've got some news. In the notes, it's new. So, news. And then our main topic, our main thing we're going to be talking about is nostalgia. So nostalgia and second chance at a first impression, mainly being titles, series that have gotten a second chance via comic books.
That lived on.
Yes, the comics are actually better if you put hot sauce in between the pages and flip it into your eyes.
It also depends if you're doing the Swamp Thing comic or if you're into Image and you're doing the Flutter.
Delicious. And yes, Vance, we will have a hot sauce sponsor by the end of the week. So when we are in the safe house or in a comic book store or in the castle or the library or in all the other stupid places that we've named all the places. No, the library is dead and gone. Anyway,
That's my heart.
When we are on the Capeless Crusaders, we like to go round the horn.
I'm gonna be honest. I miss when we used to all do it. It was more fun.
I don't.
I know.
That was my fault.
I hate all of you. I love our horn sound. I'm gonna get a little motion and everything. Yeah, it's her fault.
No, it was my fault. The first time that I ever went on, I was like, burr, 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 burr.
Oh, you started it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then it continued, and it was retribution for that terrible Gambit impression, which just slowly died out.
Which
how is it?
I can't do it.
Gotta.
Exactly.
What?
Something about crawfish?
No, crawdad. That crawdad. I eat that bow staff. Give me that bow staff. That gumbo. Anyway. Crawfish. Crawfish? You are not from.
Never.
Anyway.
No, not from that parts. Not from them
So
parts.
when we go, this took way too long. When we go around the horn, we go around the table in a circular fashion, except for the fact that we no longer have a circular table. We have never in our history actually had I have a circular table outside.
We can use it next time.
I'm going to throw, I know it's going to go into the trash.
Oh.
Anyway, we go around the horn. We talk about what comic books we've been reading this week. I have a couple, so I'm going to start us off. You have one. How many do you have?
I could do one or two.
Cool. I'm going to do three then. I'm going to do quick. Because I'm special. I'm going to take one of Amy's. So 3 things that I read this week.
Because you're older now.
Yes, it was my birthday this past week. Anyway.
Are you in your 30s now?
I'm not in my 30s.
Still not there
nope,
yet.
You're still the fossil.
Yay, shades.
Nah, Steve's is older than I am.
Yeah, he is the oldest.
What's
Actually,
up, old man?
is him or Curtis?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's not have this discussion now. Where they're both in the chat. We're both going to leave.
No.
The comics that I read this week, 2 from Marvel, 1 from Soleil, that French Belgian one that I found a couple months ago.
The one you really liked?
The one I loved. Old people yelling at us. I'm not in my 30s yet, so I ain't old. So 3 things that I read. 1, Falcon. I read up to issue... Are they on issue 6 or 7 now? Which is after Sam has given the shield back to Cap. He has taken back the role of Falcon, and he is now in Chicago trying to help with gang violence. But it turns out Blackheart, the son of Mephisto, is basically pitting the gangs against each other in an attempt to take over the world and get a seat on at the table of the grand things of the mat. It doesn't make any sense.
So basically he's doing like a Dr. Horrible thing, trying to get in for Bad Horse?
Yes, but he's trying to join Order, Chaos,
Bad Horse.
all of the... No, he's trying to join the Eternity, the son of Mephisto, Vance. He's trying to join with the guys that Thanos steals the Infinity Stones from. It's good. It's weird. The other thing I read, Doctor Strange. I'm now caught up on Doctor Strange, including Damnation, which is where magic is now back because everything always gets fixed. Loki returns. Yeah, exactly. He returned the the world's magic. So now Doctor Strange goes after the Secret Empire, and where they blew up Las Vegas, and he's like, I'm gonna do good. Today, good wins. I'm gonna resurrect Las Vegas. And of course, what happens when a wizard does something huge like that? Well, when Las Vegas, that's the best part, is when Las Vegas was destroyed, it went down to hell, of course. And Mephisto fell in love with it. Mephisto's like, this is my type of place. I'm down with it. So when he resurrects it, Mephisto comes with him, and he's like, hey man, you took my new toy. So now he basically challenges Doctor Strange to a game of cards to see who controls the fate of Las Vegas. And of course, Doctor Strange cheats, and
then he gives it to Wilson Fisk.
No, God, no. He's in New York.
He's the mayor of New York now.
Yeah,
right?
he's the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So then is it Hawkeye's daughter?
Where are you going with this?
I got distracted.
Apparently. No. So Mephisto is currently in control of Las Vegas. Everyone who sins turns into a demon, which even like the littlest sin, like you know, like go long on your parking ticket or your parking. So now everyone's turning into demons. So, and he has taken a group of the Avengers and turned them into Ghost Riders, the Spirits of Vengeance.
Oh.
And so
He was right.
So Wong has assembled a team of the already damned and the dead. So he brought like Man-Thing, giant sized.
Wank, wank.
The actual Ghost Rider.
Is that why Luke Bill said that the Ghost Rider shows up?
I don't know, or he's talking about Thanos. Could be either one. Who else is dead or damn? Blade. Like a bunch. Yeah, he basically brings a bunch of people who wouldn't really necessarily be affected by Mephisto.
David Bowie.
Yes. And so it's going really well for them, including David Bowie. So it's actually really entertaining to see. Doctor Strange is now a Ghost Rider, so it's kind of fun. The other thing I read from Soleil, a Franco-Belgian comic publisher. They publish a lot of stuff. They translate a lot of comics into French for the European.
You're so well read.
Whatchamacallit. I am very well read. And then they also do their own books and they get translated in English. And one of them I read was Druids. I read Druids 1 through 6. So Druids basically looks at the actual history behind the Roman Catholic Church and its inroads into Ireland, Britain, Scotland, Wales, and then it fills in any missing holes with fantasy. So it's like, hey, they went to Stonehenge to commune with their gods, and in actuality, they didn't commune with anybody because that's not real. But they still, in the comic, they're like, hey, Leprechaun pops up, to fill in the story. It's actually really, really well done. It looks into a lot of history of Ireland, of Celtic Druid culture. It's very entertaining. Je m'appelle Claude. Thank you, Vance. Amy, what did you read this week?
My head shift gears. I almost said hello. Started speaking French. Anyway, I read, because it took two frickety frackin' weeks to show up in the store, Saga 49.
Oh, why did it take 2 weeks?
Because Diamond hates us.
Oh.
And hot sauce labels. Yes, I did. I had to figure out what was what, okay? I have some allergies. Weird ones. But Saga 49, we are dealing now with the will. Has no will. We've got Squire, who is, if you have not been reading Saga, this is going to make no sense to you, so good luck. Yes, frickety frack. I'm so excited. Squire is actually with Prince Robot and the rest of the family on the giant flying tree in space, and also Friendo and Goose, my favorite. And Goose is a terrible babysitter, and people are just experiencing growing pains and trying to figure out how to keep everybody safe. And Prince Robot is dealing with this overflow of emotions, and he has, that screen for a face. So sometimes his brain literally just shows what he's thinking, and he's messed up twice in this issue, and it ends in a really, really bad place.
I feel like if you're not reading
Saga, you have no idea.
Saga, 100%. No, it's such when I try to describe it to people, I'm like, this happens, then this happens. They're like, what?
Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
So Saga
exactly.
is a
Luke
Korean...
Bill's lost.
Okay, so Saga started a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 49 issues. It's currently ongoing.
Yeah.
It's written.
Still easy to catch up.
Yeah, still easy to catch up. It's in volumes. The artist is Fiona Staples.
Yeah.
And I almost said Mark Waid, and that is so wrong. And it's BKV. It's Brian K. Vaughan. That is the writer. There's also emojis going on next to my head. It is basically a Korean family dramedy in space.
With some Shakespearean elements.
The entire thing is from the point of view of the daughter that's literally born in the first panel, and anybody under the age of 10, I'm going to apologize for swearing, but literally the first couple of panels are her mother giving birth, and she goes, I feel like I am...
I'm not going to put that E next to these episodes.
E.
Yes. But Saga is seriously every other month that it decides to come out is still one of the best comics on the shelf.
It's gorgeous to look at. It's
Yes.
unexpected.
Yes.
It will mess you up in the best ways.
Has the
And
same creative team the whole time.
It has consistently maintained the same creative team.
Which
And
is
also,
difficult.
Yeah.
no, it gets even better for me because this was the book that actually got me back into comics. And I have the number one, the first.
Aw,
I know.
that's nice. I didn't know that.
It's my baby Cammy.
Aww, it's so warm and
I think I need to go puke.
Yeah, Madison, get out of here.
Yay!
You heartless
Person.
judger of sweatpants.
Bringing back last week and combining it with this week.
I don't wear sweatpants in public because
Also,
I
side note,
sweat.
tonight's the LA premiere of Ready Player One, so...
Obviously, none of us are there. Hey, Manderson, what'd you read?
I read two things, both of them DC this week. I had to catch up on all of my DC reading.
Yeah.
But I started, I read the first two issues of Brave and the Bold, the Batman
Ooh.
Wonder Woman story.
Okay.
And it starts out really cool. I'm not going to get too far into it because you should buy it and read it. But basically, it opens up with this panel of a Celtic god
Ooh.
or a demigod, and he kind of explains what's going on in this region, plane, and he kind of describes it as hey, this is kind of like the Themyscira, only for the Irish. So all these,
There's a whole bunch of snakes.
there are, I have not seen a snake yet, but there's these two warring factions that he's been able to maintain peace, but he knows he needs help, and so he reaches out to Wonder Woman, who, when he goes, he's the god of fertility and something else, but he like shows up, and Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman are, and
Yeah.
Drunk Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Chris Pine.
and then mystery unfolds.
Gadot.
Batman comes into play. He like wanders into the Irish quarter of Gotham, which I didn't know existed until this.
There's, of course there is.
It probably didn't until this, but and then he has like a vision, and Alfred pulls him out and is like, it felt like magic. I hate magic, and that's like his thing.
Cool.
Bad Batman impression. I'm sorry.
That was the worst.
The other, I'm not a Steve's. Sorry. But
Stop trying to steal his things.
I'm representing the Portuguese tonight.
Portuguese.
I can't speak Portuguese, so
I'm
the other
Mexican.
thing. Anyway, moving on. The other thing I read was Green Lantern Earth 1, Volume 1.
Ooh.
Oh.
It's pretty good.
Who's writing it?
Why did you have to ask me that? I don't
Because
know.
we have expectations.
I'm
of you.
sorry.
Get it together,
It's
cheeseburger.
it's not a name that I recognize.
All right,
so I didn't
I'll Google
remember
it. You tell us how it
I'm gonna
is.
give it a googs.
Yeah.
If you're like a hardcore Green Lantern fan, the story is, I haven't finished it yet, but the story so far is fantastic. But it is going to drive you crazy because they mess with the canon so much.
Oh.
But that's kind of what the Earth 1 books are supposed to do.
Exactly.
Like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman all been like, okay, those are close to the canon, but
it's
they're
not.
not. This one messes with it a lot.
Good.
Invisible Republic. That
But
makes
the
a lot
story, who wrote it? The story is very good.
Oh, Gabriel Hardman from Invisible Republic. Yeah.
of sense. Mhm.
And
Makes
co-writer Karina Beck. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's very good. The art is fantastic. Just to throw this out there, Kilowog is like a scientist / doctor
I'm down with it.
who saves Hal Jordan's life after he discovers the ring and then almost dies in a fight with a manhunter.
sense. Okay.
And it goes from there. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. I was getting into it, and all the other Earth ones been great.
Yeah.
So I was like, this one will probably be really good too. And I started reading, like, I don't know how I feel about this, because Hal doesn't initially find the ring, somebody else does, and then he gets the ring, and then stuff happens. Like, I don't know how I feel, and I kept going, and it kept getting better, and it's fantastic. Pick it up. You will love it.
It will lift you up where you belong.
Yes, it will. It will definitely do that. Is that a reference to something?
Lift us up where we belong.
Again,
Somebody
Steve's is
clip
not
that.
here to sing. This.
I think I'm. Isn't that from that random Christian album compilation from like the early 2000s that the commercial would play like crazy late at night in between?
Wow, this is music.
Yeah,
Because they did like the now this is, and then they did wow for the Christians.
He does remember.
is that what it was?
Probably.
Yes.
I have no idea.
It was.
I'm pretty
He's
sure I have
correct.
that somewhere.
Well,
You do. I do too. We don't speak of
I
that.
was that kid.
anyway, so that
Let the story end.
actually Rube actually brings up a good point. The one shots, the one offs. They actually I like when they'll do that, when they'll take the they'll do the Earth ones, and they'll do the 6 issues, the 12 issues, 24 issues, then end it. There's something to be said about canon as well. But speaking of canon, a lot of canon. No, not talking about Sea of Thieves. There is a lot of canon actually being thrown out the window right now by all of the publishers, and some that is being followed, which takes us to the news. I need to have that like dancing around and like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So, in the news
still on detox
this week, the news monkey, he dead. No, he's not actually dead. He's not actually dead.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't think I'd get that much of a reaction.
I don't know why I care. I've never met the
I
news
left him at
monkey.
the sanatorium. I thought he was okay.
I believe that no one should care this much about an imaginary monkey that hands pieces of paper to a Steve's for him to flap at the microphone. But apparently we care a lot about that.
We care about the shtick.
So,
I care about everybody.
revealed this week, we got
Not
the
yourself.
synopsis.
Synopsis?
There is apparently people are upset about the monkey in the chat.
I told you.
Apparently, anyway, we got the synopsis of Captain Marvel right from Marvel Studios. The film, for those of you who are unaware, is starring Brie Larson, also starring Jude Law. Right?
As Marvel.
Marvel, the original Captain Marvel.
I don't know how I feel about him.
I don't like it. I mean, I don't mind Jude Law. He's kind of a scuzzy guy, but he hasn't like, while he's I think he's like cheated on his wife. I don't think he's ever like physically abused or attacked anyone. So he's kind of in that like, whatever, like you can, just.
He's in the gray area that we kind of accept because we have
weird
to.
area?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Shh, we're not talking about that yet.
So we're coming right up on it. No, that's my thing. That's right there. Look at the notes.
I know.
Anyway, so the synopsis of the film is that Brie Larson, aka Carol Danvers, is going to somehow be pulled into the Kree-Skrull War during the height of it, pulled in by Marvel. And of course, that's going to mean a couple people are returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe because the Kree is the alien race that gave us Ronan the Accuser, who is who? Lee Pace, our boy Lee Pace.
Which he ties into the main topic too, so I'm super happy about it.
Never trust an elf, because he was Legolas's dad in The Hobbit, and then he was Ronan, so you never trust an elf. And then Galadriel actually goes on to become Hela, so you never trust an elf.
Okay, yeah.
And then Elrond goes on to become Red Skull, so you never trust an elf.
Or Priscilla
Gimli
in the desert.
had it right the whole time.
So did Gimmadin, he also has it right.
Yeah,
He didn't say
Gimmadin
it, but
never trusts an elf.
He's a dwarf. In
So,
the
in other words,
so.
you should never accept the bow. You should only accept the axe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless it's
Is Glenn Close coming back? I don't know.
it's a really good question. I imagine. I mean, if they bring
If
in the
she's
Nova
gonna
Corps, well, we know she's gonna get slaughtered in Infinity War because how else does he get the gem? But she hasn't been confirmed at this point. Only Lee Pace. I never because when I see his name, I think it's Digimon. Djimon, I believe, is Jimon Hansu.
Hey, chat, get on that.
But every time I see his first name, I think Digimon. But he's coming back as Korath, and Lee Pace is coming back as Ronin. So they're going to be, at this point, I assume, probably still part of the Kree military, as opposed to when they split off in Guardians. And our boy, Clark Gregg,
I love Clark
Agent
Gregg.
Coulson.
Freaking Clark Gregg.
He's going to be back, reprising his role as Agent Coulson, probably working as a young agent with
Not
Nick
with
Fury.
splattered cards.
Yeah, no, not, and I don't know where his hairline's
They
going to
were
look
in
like.
his locker the whole time.
They were in his locker the whole
The whole
time. So we know that Marvel, Jude Law, is going to be pulling in Brie Larson. We don't know if it's going to be he trains her and gives her the power, or if it's going to be the accident that causes her to get the power.
Or is it going to be are we going to have the extension of now, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, words are tough right now, aren't
Swirl.
they? The other thing that was revealed via, what's his name? Who's the director? James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy, is that there's a little Easter egg in Guardians of the Galaxy he revealed today that in Stan Lee's cameo, when Rocket's zooms in on him, the word next to his head is actually Excelsior in Skrull.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cute.
Yeah,
Somebody's getting new tattoos.
so the Skrulls are finally going to be Tell her you're a wizard, Carol. In other,
You can do it in the voice.
I'm not going to do it in the voice. Canon shattering news, not really canon shattering news, but Darkseid is joining the Justice League.
Shut
right?
the front door. That does bring me up to something that reminds me of you, but I don't. It's not.
Are you going to keep starting sentences and then not letting them end?
Wait, that's just
the shtick for tonight?
Let's talk
Justice
about
League comics,
Darkseid.
right?
Yes,
Let's
this is
talk
the Justice
about
League
Darkseid,
comics.
and then I'll talk
I
about
feel
the
like-
part that the Darkseid tied me to.
Okay. I mean, they put Lex Luthor on the Justice League.
Yes. So I believe it's going to be similar to the
Justice League of America.
the No Justice, the No Justice story that's coming up, where it's like heroes and villains are coming together to fight an intergalactic or an interdimensional alien or force. So it's like they have to come together to defend their reality.
DC's Dormammu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically.
Dormammu.
We'll see if it actually goes well. But so far the art for Darkseid makes him look really thin and weird. So I'm not sure how I feel
Well,
about
he's
it.
still, if in the Wonder Woman storyline, he's recovering his strength by killing off Greek gods. So,
But isn't he? He's still big though. Yeah.
now he was like basically at the end of Darkseid Wars. He was born from Superwoman from Earth 3
Yeah.
and imbued with the Omega powers, but he was a baby. And his daughter then started raising him.
And Batman used him as a weapon at one point. I think that was in
Right.
Metal. He used baby Darkseid.
Yeah.
So good.
And
That is
then
right.
and so then she starts hunting down old gods or the children of Zeus, and so like she kills Hercules, she kills a bunch of the other gods, eventually leading up to a fight between Wonder Woman and Darkseid, who is powerful enough to cause problems going one-on-one, which forces Zeus to come out of hiding, and he kills Zeus and absorbs his power. So he's almost at full strength, but he's not quite there. So he's a little bit smaller than normal because he's been basically aging himself back to where he was. So he's
Interesting.
probably he's you. He's a young adult. He's not old yet. He's a young adult.
He's not in his 30s yet.
He's not in his 30s
So
yet.
I'm not sure where this fits in because that makes total sense. Whether or not it's actually going to play off that, I have no idea. But that totally makes sense for him to not be quite a god again, which is why he would actually join them as opposed to just being like, I'm a god, Omega Beam.
Okay, I better start reading Justice League again.
Yeah, well, it's the new one. It's coming out of Scott Snyder and all
Yeah,
that, and Hoedown and Hootenanny.
Mixing.
So
Yeah, I think Darkseid needs some stuff.
Mixelplix,
Mixel Pitalik.
mix.
I
think
can
it-
say it.
I don't.
Can I
want
say
to.
the thing that
Yeah, what was the
reminded
thing
me?
you were going to say?
So this is actually really entertaining news because I constantly try to get you to cosplay as Lobo because it makes me happy.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So 3 days ago, somebody was announced to be joining the Teen Titans, and it's none other than Lobo's daughter, Crush. No joke. I.e., you and Morgan have something to do.
No, that's not gonna ever happen. Like, if you can't get me to cosplay as Lobo, how do you think you're gonna get me to cosplay as Lobo and his daughter with my daughter in 10 years when she's this appropriate size?
Because she can do
Because it'll
anything.
be cute.
I hate all of you. I would just, so here's the thing. I would so much rather have her small and carry her around as Swamp Thing and she could be Teffy.
Aww.
Yeah, but someone was supposed to make me a Swamp Thing cosplay out of a ghillie suit for $20 or less, and it never happened.
It hasn't happened.
I wonder who that is.
Manderson.
That's definitely me. I'm sorry. I let you down.
It's okay.
I know you introduced me to Swamp Thing. You helped me fall in love, and I let you down. I'm sorry.
All you do is let me down. But in other news, speaking of letdowns,
That's not true.
speaking of letdowns,
That was a good
this is a
segue.
good ham-fisted segue.
It works well.
This week we saw the premiere of
Yeah.
Krypton
No.
on Sci-Fi.
I watched Magicians.
So you got the Kryptonians right there. It's, man, this is tiny. You can't see. I'm sorry.
That's a lot of flexing to get him up there.
So,
I don't have a lot to flex.
quick review.
We can do this in 30 seconds or less, right?
Yes, I can tell you
Two sentence review.
it was generic.
Uh-huh.
It didn't grab me. Okay, Rue cosplaying Cable and Daughter's Hope. Okay, that's solid. But I'd have to cut my hair, so I don't know how I feel about that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can I just like put a bald cap on and a wig?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get this hair down under a bald cap, believe me. So Krypton, it was a little generic, a little bland. I think it's cool that we're gonna see the history of Kal-El's line 200 because it's 200 years in the past on Krypton and like Kandor and all that other stuff. but it was
Bottle City
which
yet?
is
It's not a bottle city yet.
It's a bottled city already. Like when they did the opening shot and there's a city in a dome, like, oh, it's Candor. It's already in a bottle.
Yeah.
Why?
It's not.
Why is it already in a bottle?
It's not in a tiny bottle yet.
It's in a big bottle.
It was.
I love that both of you said at the same time.
I don't understand why they had accents. The action,
because everybody knows they speak British on Krypton.
the action was okay, but honestly, what it came down to for me is like the colors and everything in the comics. Whenever they like show Krypton, it was like these spires and these bright colors and all this stuff.
It was the golden city on a hill.
Exactly. And
That's my favorite part.
And now in this one, it's everything's gray and stone and metal and brown and
It's
disappoint. So I'm good. Manderson.
I will watch the second episode to see if it gets better. But I agree with so much of what you said. There were a few things that were slightly redemptive of it, but not enough to be like, this thing is amazing. It's kind of like you said, it's generic. It feels like they were rummaging through scripts like,
exactly.
This is a good script. It's supposed to take place back in medieval times. Krypton. Let's make everything sci-fi.
Just replace a friend of mine would always talk about how when he worked in Hollywood, when he like sees scripts, they'd be like, "Oh, that script is like a good generic action story. We'll save that for when we do like G.I. Joe. We'll save that for when we do like this." Like that's what they do sometimes with scripts, and that's how it felt. It felt like it was like, we're gonna do some nods. We're going to do some nods with, this character, this name drop, this family name drop to let you know it's Superman's planet. But other than that.
Yeah. I think they did like a little bit of John Williams theme in there once or twice.
Yes.
That was probably the highlight.
Yeah.
Outside of the quick shot of the best part of the show.
I saw the picture of this one and I was like,
ooh.
Yeah.
Brainiac is really good, and that's honestly Brainiac. I'm going back in the second time
because Brainiac. So what? Because what show has Brainiac? Is like Brainiac 6? Is he on
Supergirl?
Is he on Supergirl? Yeah, terrible. Looks more like a bad cosplay of the Guardians of the Universe.
Yeah.
Well, what was the guy from Buffy that was Brainiac when it was in Smallville? Do you remember?
Yes, I don't know the actor's name, but
Angel.
Season 5.
Wait, Angel? Not Spike?
Spike.
Yeah.
That would have been bad.
I've seen him.
He's in a million things, and he's super, super like cheerful and
he's okay.
And he's not really
moderately talented. So, yeah, so Krypton, watch it if you want to. If you don't want to, don't worry, you're not missing anything.
Yeah,
there's
better comic book based shows out there.
So that takes us to our main topic. Speaking of nothing that has anything to do with this topic.
Marster?
Thank you. So second chance at a first impression, something you don't always get, but with comic books, sometimes we do. So sometimes there is a story, there is a TV show, there is a movie, there is a product line, there is a toy, hang on Amy, I'll get to you, that gets a second chance via the comic books. For example, just because I've never actually read it, but it's a good example, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy basically got, after it was canceled and they didn't want to come back and make more episodes, it got its 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 1000th season.
They're on the 11th season right now.
11th season. Yeah. Thanks, man. Do you read it?
No, but my wife was into it, and I saw it on a website. I was like, hey, sweetie, if you like Buffy, there's a Buffy comic. It picks up where it leaves off.
Exactly.
She went, huh.
So for some people, that works. Some people are like, oh, I get to enjoy this thing again. I get to enjoy it, frequently, like without the restrictions of budgets, because you can just have artists drawing whatever you want.
Yeah.
So, Amy, what do you got? You've been poking your hand up.
Because it ties back into the news, and because I love Lee Pace, it made a terrible first impression on me, which was the Pushing Daisies comic book, which was very short-lived.
They did a comic book.
Yeah, they did.
That was a good show.
It's a great show.
I don't know what Pushing...
Download CW Seed onto one of your apps and just watch it.
So it's this story about a pie maker who makes pies and wakes the dead. He's got the ability to touch a dead person once, they come back to life, and if he touches them a second time, they're dead again forever.
Oh, okay.
But it's Lee Pace.
Yeah.
It's Brian Fuller, it's whimsical, it's slightly morbid. It had 2 seasons. The writer strike hit, and basically they jumped all the way to the end of season 2. There were so many things left unopened, and so the comic books tried to just start it up. Like every episode was a nugget.
Zombie with pies. That's actually
except without brains.
Yeah, no, less brains, more resurrecting.
There's some really
it's
amazing,
like Thane.
And it's really fun. You're like solving mysteries, and so there's rules. When you touch somebody, you have 60 seconds, or something of equal proportion will die, and you don't know who or what. So if you keep a dead thing alive for longer than the 60 seconds or the 3 minutes, I can't remember what it is.
I think it is 60 seconds, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it's really specific, and Lee Pace, a.k.a. the Pie Maker, breaks the rule.
As you do.
For somebody in particular. But also Kristen Chenoweth's in it. I love Kristen Chenoweth. So they're singing.
But the comic was...
It was underwhelming.
Okay.
And the reason it was underwhelming wasn't just from character design as in the art itself, but they tried to... Each of the episodes is fairly serial. You can almost watch it as an individual thing.
Okay.
And get intrigued about what the actual main storyline is underneath it. They tried to do that with the comic books, and after the third one, it tanked really, really bad.
Oh, okay. Well... So yeah,
yes, and Chi McBride.
And you could do musical episodes if you publish the music, so the person could sing along. If they don't read music, you can give them like a Spotify playlist.
You could.
I'm not saying it's a good idea.
Pushing Daisies, but I'd never get it back.
Buy this $4 comic book.
But also,
there's a
$10
CD that goes with it.
But it's really fun. So like one of the first episodes, and of course Kristen Chenoweth is a big musical theater girl. She got some Tonys.
The main girl's Zoe.
No, Anna.
Right?
It's Anna something.
Oh, okay.
I cannot remember. I'm sorry.
Googling this. You guys don't do your research.
I can't remember Anna's first name or second name. But so one of the first episodes, Kristen Chenoweth basically breaks into song and sings "Hopelessly Devoted to You," and she's singing it. See, Anna Farrell. Yay, I like her. But she's singing "Hopelessly Devoted to You." There's this whole thing. She's dancing with the dog, who is also dead, not dead type of thing. And then they have an entire musical number to "Eternal Flame" when they can't shut off the flames in the pie oven, which is great.
It's got good cast.
Yes.
There were a lot of stuff that were killed by the...
This was murdered
But the comic didn't help it.
Yeah, it was murdered. Absolutely utter murder. And see, look, even Luke Bell, Dead Like Me, Hannibal, American Guards, Star Trek Discovery, first 13 episodes of Heroes when it was still good. First season.
That writer strike was...
It tanked.
It was a terrible time. Terrible time.
It murdered some beautiful stories.
Now,
is Luke Bill saying that Star Trek Discovery was a bad idea, or just giving an example?
He's giving an example of what else Brian Fuller did.
Oh, okay.
And Wonder Falls, that's right. Which was
Brian
another
Fuller's
one
at the
that tried to
beginning.
live
I just
on
saw Star Trek. And I'm like,
read the sentence.
Sorry.
But there are some things
that thrived well inside the comic book as an alternative. Firefly is the perfect example.
Firefly, we knew we were never going to get it. For a lot of people, the first season, while it's like this amazing thing that everyone has really close to their heart, it really, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that good, but it was going to be amazing. Like, it was probably going to be really good. So the comic was able to expand and do a lot of the things like the movie was able to kind of branch out into, tell stories before, tell stories after.
Tell stories that make you cry on Free Comic Book Day.
Exactly. Now, there are some titles that are kind of unnecessary, if you ask me. They're just kind of, they're what's the term? They're looking for the monies. They're just in it for the monies. Yes, playing tiny violins.
Oh.
For example, I don't know if anyone's a fan, but there is a Back to the Future comic.
There's a couple of them. There's about 6.
Exactly. There's way too many. So not necessarily...
Adventures of the Time Train?
It's Biff to the Future.
Biff to the Future.
The Back to the Future standard.
Yeah.
There's Something Attack. I can think of the third one, and all I can see is Doc Brown's face.
Yeah, but overall, I loved the Back to the Future movies. I didn't think it needed a comic book.
Well, how do we feel about Big Trouble in Little China?
So Big Trouble in Little China, different, because Back to the Future got 3 movies. Mm-hmm. Back to the Future got to tell its story, and Back to the Future was like,
bam,
beautiful trilogy. It was done. Big Trouble in Little China was a movie that they could never get a sequel off the ground. So the fact that it got the comic, because it set up the sequel, that monster on the truck at the end, and we never saw anything after that. So the comic book was able to tell a story that we never got to see. That's why I really like the Big Trouble in Little China comic, and it also crosses over with Escape from New York because, why not? But
I had another one that I just remembered that I actually found entertaining.
what was it?
Bill and Ted.
Oh, see, and I didn't like the Bill and Ted
I liked it.
comic. But again, is it necessary? Like,
it wasn't necessary,
we
but
got...
it was a nice little. Let's be honest. Steves will probably shoot me for this. I don't think the Jurassic Park comic books in the 90s were absolutely necessary to keep telling the story.
He probably agrees. He likes the movies.
Yeah.
So why would he shoot you?
I don't know.
Some people
I
like...
have one in my possession.
Some people like a movie, like a TV show, and don't want to see it get turned into a comic book. Manderson.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any that you enjoyed, didn't enjoy, thought were unnecessary?
It sounded like Kermit.
A little bit.
So, nailed it then. Trying to think.
The Muppets.
The Muppets did have a
Muppets
comic book.
They have a couple of them.
I feel like
Yeah. But for kids, that's...
Simpsons.
So I like when I see a comic based on something that I have enjoyed in the past, I generally immediately think it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And so I run away.
Or at least as good.
And maybe that's really what it comes down to, is you want it to be as good, and it's probably, you don't think it will be. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot that I grab onto. The only exception being anytime I see the word Star Trek on a comic, I always pick it up. And there's a couple titles that I've continued to read and I thought were pretty good, but in general, I feel like when somebody tries to resurrect something that's gone, I just don't know why it doesn't feel like it comes back as well.
Yeah. Sometimes they're meant to be gone.
Yeah.
They ended. But sometimes like stuff doesn't get a chance to be told.
Right. And I think that's probably why like Firefly has been successful, and I mean it appears, I haven't read, but it appears that the Buffy the Vampire Slayer
does very well.
It's hugely popular.
Has been,
and Angel and Buffy both of those
Angel,
do very
the Spike solo book did okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rue, actually, that's a really good point. If they did a Fast and Furious comic to continue Paul Walker's story. Now here's the thing. The problem with this is the part of the excitement of Fast and Furious is the driving and the racing and everything, and in comics, telling that story, telling the driving part might be tough, but telling the character's story could actually be a really cool thing to do, a really good way of resurrecting a character that is really gone because the actor he did and go. But then there's other stuff like toys that continue on and carry on into Transformers, Micronauts, G.I. Joe, which G.I. Joe went from toy to cartoon to comic in the same, I don't know which one came first, but around the same time.
The chicken or the egg.
So
Transformers was a toy first too.
All these things were toys first, and it was all about selling the toy. And sometimes they outlived the toys. Honestly, like Transformers toys, while they're still popular and the movies are still popular, the comics actually did better, in my opinion, told better stories because, again, weren't limited by budget limitations.
Well, it's the same thing with the Star Wars, all of the Star Wars books, which they formed and created a new home, especially between the original three and our new group.
Right.
They built a home and created an EU that we no longer give two flying farts about, which you people know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't know what she's talking about.
But they've created... There's children in the chat.
Your children.
I know. But they created a space and a home for people to explore the universe and to have adventures and to still feel connected while there was that big giant gap.
Yeah. Well, and some of the Star Wars stories have been better than
what we've been getting.
Better than anything. Better than anything that
do you think that maybe like stuff like Star Wars and while I don't think the Star Trek comics are quite at the level as the Star Wars comics, but the things that people grab onto them because they care about them and so they want to continue telling that story versus something like this made a lot of money, let's make a comic to make more money.
Yeah. If
that's one of the key deciding factors, if somebody loves it, they're going to do their due diligence on telling a good story, maintaining the canon as best as they can, respecting it, and being creative inside of that, as opposed to somebody's like let's just do this because we can make a quick buck off of it.
Exactly. Well,
but comic books don't make money.
Well, depending on who you are, they make money for some people.
Well, you can translate it the opposite direction too. Look at the care that Ryan Reynolds has actually taken to ensure that Deadpool is as close to the comic books as he can get because it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
I mean, in that regard, he's telling a story that he knew was never going to be able to come to the, to the big screen.
And I feel like to that point, like,
shut your mouth, your dirty mouth.
The Arrow, like, 2 point whatever, like season
Grim,
2 point whatever.
Grim 2 point what?
Yeah, exactly. The stuff in between the seasons of the television shows.
Supernatural.
I feel like we don't need that.
Yeah, that is clearly just to make money. Like, I don't give a crap about what happens in between Arrow seasons 1 and 2.
Smallville was one of those next season type things.
Yeah, Smallville was a series that was canceled and they carried it on, and it might not necessarily been a money grab.
No.
But they're not always necessarily necessary.
It's very, very necessary. Lolly, lolly, lolly. Get your adverbs here.
What just happened? Does anyone know, Manderson?
I'm lost. Has anybody seen my mom?
So there's definitely titles that they outlive their original form, I guess. I mean, Ghostbusters.
It actually doesn't read too terrible.
The comic is surprisingly popular, but there's also people who were so incredibly against the reboot that they'll never. I don't know why they give, or they'd go to the comic because the comic has their original team, and they feel like they can connect more to it. Like, I feel like there are people. I know people who are like fans of certain versions of Star Trek. And that's why they go to the comics, because they can get the continuing saga of the original crew. Yeah. Next generation, so on and so forth.
Is this why people are so picky about their X teams?
I probably, maybe. I mean, again, you want to talk about nostalgia. The way that Second Chance at a First Impression, Marvel will bring back the X-Men 92 because they knew that they could ride off of the millennial nostalgia from watching that show, even if the book wasn't necessarily that good. I don't think that they really translated well back to the comics. I thought the show kind of was good, and then they did the book and it wasn't good. So it's like is it a two-way street? I'm not entirely sure. Like, can something go from initial form, whether it's TV, book, movie, and then go into comics and then come back but maintain the changes that came in the comics? Like, if we got like a Back to the Future 4 that came after the comic books,
do they need to connect?
I don't know. Do they?
I feel like.
Do we want them to?
I think it depends on the universe, I guess.
Yeah.
If my understanding is correct, and I apologize, as I've made abundantly clear, Star Trek, not Star Wars here. I like Star Wars, but I'm not that invested in it. Do the comics are part of the canon of what's happening in the movies now, correct?
Currently, yes.
So that's really all one company controlling that.
Right. So it's the comics don't affect the movies because those decisions were already made. We have someone who Star Trek is life.
Are you a Trekker or a Trekkie? Is
there a difference?
Which one's the bad word?
No. So Trekkie was like, hey, I like Star Trek, and I might have a Star Trek shirt, and I've been to a Star Trek convention.
Keep going, buddy.
Trekker is like somebody who's like there's a documentary that I didn't watch the whole thing about Star Trek fans. This one woman is like wearing a Star Trek uniform with the pin. She's like, I feel like I need to do my obligation for Starfleet, and she goes to like jury duty, and it's like a thing for her. Those are Trekkers, and I don't think either one's bad. They just don't live in the real world.
Is that the one? I
just wanted to bring up the other movie that Ernie Klein did, which is Fanboys.
Is that the one with the guy?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I stopped after 2 minutes.
But there was okay.
It was painful.
There's a guy in the UK who has turned his entire flat, because he's British. He turned his flat into the deck of the USS Enterprise.
He sleeps on the deck?
Yeah.
I
think he's built other rooms.
Does he sleep in the captain's chair?
I don't know.
I think there was. Remember, we had that really nice captain's chair that we saw.
Oh yeah, Silicon Valley Comic Con, which we're going to be at next weekend. Hopefully, it's there again.
Next weekend, 2 weekends.
2 weekends, whatever. Next
weekend is April Fool's Day / Easter, where I will be filling all of my kids' Easter eggs with rocks and
This is
rock
gonna
candy.
Good jokes. Good jokes. But to go back to your point, the Star Wars comics, they're not like given like creative freedom to make a change that then they have to like agree with in the movies.
Okay.
It's like the team basically they're like, hey, we wrote this story, and they take it to them. They're like, yeah, that fits into what we're doing in the movies, or yeah, it doesn't really matter. You can tell that story of Poe going off and shooting these guys because it is not really important.
It works really well also with Rebels, because there was a full, and I really appreciated, there was a full book, and I can't remember his name now. Oh, I'm gonna drive myself nuts. He's the last Jedi, but he was like the last Padawan.
It'll come.
Kanan,
last Padawan. And so it was actually the story of how
voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr.
When the order went out, where he was his master, his training, and it's simultaneously going with another story that fits into the universe, but you can see it happening, like it doesn't have to be seen on the screen.
So I feel like those aren't necessarily then good examples.
You think Luke, Bill, and Ramen Face are going to start fighting it out?
I hope so.
Well, I just want to know if Ramen Face has cheese in his
start
ramen.
Start throwing some emojis, some
cool cat,
some emotes at each other.
I want the cool cat.
I'm
Not
thinking.
the weird slot.
Here we go. A little bit of that. Throw down some of those. So, are there any
bad ones?
Well, yeah, of course. We've already talked about a bunch of bad ones.
Well, talked about
are there any really bad ones?
Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger had a comic book?
Everything had a comic book.
Not everything.
Garbage Pail Kids had
a
comic book.
Did SWAT Cats have a comic book?
Like an alien comic book?
The Alien.
Yeah, the Alien franchise actually does really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alien.
As so does
Alien
Predator.
and
Do they really?
and
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen it and I was like, I love those movies. I should probably pick this up.
I wonder if there's like a Rambo book.
You haven't even seen Rambo yet.
I know, but I can.
So then why do you?
I can wax poetic.
I'm gonna give that one a
That you're googling.
So, but
can I borrow your phone? I have a 5S. It's old.
No, man, go for it. Oh, Drew in the TARDIS. Welcome, man.
Hi, Drew.
You always come right towards the end. I think it's because you have kids. But
so say we all.
So say we all. But
that's one.
So what? Game of Thrones.
Battlestar.
What was I thinking of?
Battlestar has a comic book, and it seems to be doing fairly well, but I don't know.
I would also buy a SWAT Cats
sci-fi comic books do really well.
So yeah, so what it is
translate.
Exactly, they're easy to translate and they're easy to tell really good stories. So something like the Alien universe. So you have xenomorphs and space marines and like a corporation, and other than that, it's kind of a free form.
It's like a well done Space Troopers.
Exactly.
Which is a comic book as well.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh man.
But
I'm gonna read that one.
Yeah, RoboCop vs. Terminator was surprisingly entertaining.
I know of a cartoon that kind of tanked, but then it like revived itself and came back and rotated back into comic books.
Well, I think which one?
The original My Little Pony was a terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And then it came back around, and now My Little Pony's like super. Like the show and the comic are doing really well.
They do very well.
There is no Rambo comic.
There are lots of Doctor Who comics.
There are tons.
There are literally stories for every single, almost every single Doctor.
Yeah, pretty much every Doctor. They've given their own.
Check out the Doctor Who / Star Trek: The Next Generation crossover.
That was one.
Yeah, so that's the thing. There's someone like that, someone like Doctor Who, where there's so many stories. Like we only get to see a season's worth of stories of the Doctor running around. Why wouldn't he be running off and doing all these other things in between? Comics allow you to do that. So in a lot of ways, comics give you the freedom that TV and movies don't limit you to.
And tiny violins.
Tiny violins. So you can do so much more with it. And again, you can also take like nostalgia and you can ride off of that nostalgia because we know that nostalgia sells so well. Yeah, the Django Zorro is Steve's was all about that. There's something for everyone, and there's something that you're not going to necessarily see on screen ever, but you're going to be able to get it in print, and it's going to be
The Shadow and Batman.
Hopefully entertaining. DC's been doing a ton of crossovers with characters that no longer necessarily exist or don't get new iterations on TV, all crossovers, with the quests, with Elmer Fudd Batman.
Which was amazing.
It was so fun.
That was so weird.
Tasmanian Devil and Wonder Woman. So there's times where it can be done really tastefully and done really well, and there's other times where it's just
tacky and get up.
Yeah, big. There's like,
as the young people call it, it is ratchet.
What?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
You guys are adorable, you 30-somethings.
Do you know what it means?
Yeah, I do.
Can you
I
explain
work
it
in a
to us,
junior
please?
high. I really can't. It's one of those words that you know what it means, but if I try to give you a definition, Urban Dictionary, man.
And Archie
Can
does
you
mean
explain
everybody.
the word fleek to
I can.
me?
If
Apparently,
this was
my brows might be that.
if this was 3 years ago, I totally would.
Oh, they don't say it
No, but I can tell you what lit means. But
it's fire.
That's not what that means.
so, for example, another title that went into not even title, but professional wrestling going into comic books.
They've been all over the place.
So the current WWE run is actually doing really well, but I don't. It's not.
It's not your favorite.
It's not my favorite, and there would also be random comics in like the 80s, like the 90s. I have a couple of them, like the Undertaker comic, where it was like it was him wrestling, but then sometimes it was him being supernatural and fighting demons. Like they would try to like.
Wait, so it's like Undertaker meets John Constantine?
Except for the fact that he's not a.
He's not Constantine.
Yeah,
no.
but
What's up with the urn?
they would tell some stories. It's the ashes of his family. His
Why
family.
does it control him?
Because he considers himself responsible for their deaths.
Who's
And
Paul Bearer?
Paul Bearer is, well, do you know what a Paul Bearer is?
I'm just asking you because I'm proving a point.
That I haven't given you the list of wrestling matches you need
And
to
I'm
watch.
also doing research.
But exactly, then you don't need to worry about it.
You
Anyway,
haven't given me a list.
I already told you.
WrestleMania 92.
She's ahead of me.
I don't know why I do this.
Because inside you secretly love it.
So, Drew, yes, there are volumes. There are collected volumes.
It's not the big batch.
It's not, yeah, because it's not
Not.
done yet. Because it's still ongoing. But you can get the first couple trades.
I think it's up to volume 5 now.
Yeah,
4 or 5.
probably 4 or 5 at least.
Yeah.
Yes, Amy.
I have another WWE question.
I'm also interested in the answer to this question.
Okay, what's up?
So, what tied Undertaker to Kane? Why did they team up?
They're brothers.
Officially?
No,
In real life?
no, not in
But
real
what
life.
did they team up for?
Because they're brothers.
In
In the story.
which one?
The story.
Yeah.
His
The
story?
the wrestling story. They are
Whoa,
brothers.
wait. Because they're the thing that we don't talk about until you find out later that they're the thing. I don't know. I don't know if other people have been paying attention and watch a whole bunch of wrestling
my
and know
favorite
about
guy.
Undertaker.
Okay.
Just like that he's technically not just one person.
Yes, Drew, they're a Constantine Hellblazer. That's what it's called. I don't know if it's still running, actually. We're just answering questions from chat.
Anyway,
This is wonderful.
yes, there are a lot of Constantine comics. You can go back and you can read the really great ones out of the 80s and 90s. There are current ones that are pretty good, pretty good too. Okay, so Amy.
Yeah.
So in the story,
Yeah,
of,
the story.
of the WWF at the
Mhm.
time,
Yeah, that's right.
the Undertaker is this mysterious figure whose manager is Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer carries the urn. He is this creepy pseudo-zombie looking guy who it looks like he runs a funeral parlor.
He's really pudgy.
So the Undertaker is this mythic man, not
Amazing.
sure if he's alive, not sure if he's dead, controls dark elements in the darkness and uses
He
coffins
pops up
for a lot of
straight in.
stuff. So as they progressed his story,
He
he got
bring him in a coffin.
yeah, all the time.
Okay.
He got more and more evil as time went on,
Okay.
and eventually they wanted to introduce his brother. So his family all died in a fire at the funeral parlor that they ran.
Okay.
Because quality storytelling.
I'm
He
actually
thought-
enjoying this. Keep going.
His brother Kane died as well, but Paul Bearer, because Undertaker and Paul Bearer are no longer together at this point, they had a bad breakup. So Paul Bearer finds Kane, who is the Undertaker's brother, who wears a mask because he was scarred by the flames, but he was not killed. So he brings him to challenge the Undertaker, and the Undertaker loses to him initially because he's so shocked by the return of any of his living family, because he was under the impression that his family is dead.
Is that his twin?
Not his twin.
Did he have a twin?
No.
Older brother, younger brother.
Younger brother.
Can't lose to a younger brother.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Not much younger. So they eventually they made peace and they became the Brothers of Destruction, where they won the tag team titles. Then they turned on each other again. Then eventually Kane took off his mask. Then Undertaker became a biker And then he went back to being all creepy with a long jacket and big broad hat, and they fought again, and this has been going on. They're both in their 50s at this point.
Still
But
going on?
Undertaker's retired.
Undertaker is not retired.
Official. I thought he did. He left his hat in the ring. Again?
He left his hat and gloves in the middle of the ring, and he walked away, but never officially retired. He took time off for a hip replacement.
So now he has a hip made of aluminium?
Yeah, better be a vibranium.
At this point, yes.
But yeah, he came back for the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw, and made an ominous statement that no one knew if it was real or not. And currently, if you're currently watching the WWE product, which apparently this has turned into a WWE podcast, which we did have the idea of calling it off the top rope. Maybe we'll add that segment in.
I have questions that you've been failing to answer, so I'm
you're currently
right now.
watching The Undertaker is nowhere to be found, but John Cena has been calling him out. He wants to challenge The Undertaker. Everyone is predicting it's going to be a career versus career match so that The Undertaker can officially retire.
So is that like The Rock and Hogan? Is that a career
Sort
match, or
of.
was that what was that?
That was
one?
not career versus career.
What was that?
That was just icon versus legend.
Oh, and that's when they do the trade off, like when Andre the Giant did that with Hogan.
No.
What
Under
was that one?
Under the Giant versus Hogan was just the Giant versus Hogan. That was when he body slammed the Giant. That was officially the first time Under the Giant was ever taken down in a ring. That was not actually true. They had wrestled in Japan, and Hogan had already taken Andre the Giant. But officially on TV, Andre the Giant had never been slammed. He'd never been picked up and dropped by anybody because he was a monster. So a
very nice monster.
So at WrestleMania, Hogan picks up and body slams the Giant, hits him with a leg drop, retains or wins the title. I can't remember at this point.
Who was the lover boy?
He left for the title.
Their lover boy?
No, was it lover boy? What was his name? Shawn Michaels?
Shawn Michaels. So he's the Heartbreak Kid.
That one. And then he transitioned to...
Grab a drink since we're going to be here a while.
Apparently, man. You want to go to beer? I don't have any, but there's a
store around the corner.
There's a liquor store nearby. So HBK, that's a Steve's favorite, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Why does he like Heartbreak Kid?
He
was a jerk in '92 WrestleMania.
Yes,
that girl also needed some help.
Did you start watching WrestleMania in '92?
I actually went all the way through it. How do you think I'm able to talk to you right now?
I have no idea.
I was doing research. I was going to surprise you, but I need more material.
That list, the problem is that list that I have going for you is just ever growing.
Which has not been given to me so that I could section it off like we had this conversation. Look, now the Manderson is intrigued too.
I was intrigued.
For story time, right?
Yeah.
Undertaker.
Remember I texted you like a year ago about this guy who looked Irish but wasn't?
Which one?
Rowdy?
I don't remember. He was
Sheamus?
Sure. No, he's not Irish.
Oh, okay.
He's like Middle Eastern or something.
Oh, you're talking about Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, who is Canadian.
Oh, he's Canadian.
He is half Irish, half Syrian.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
He looks hard. He looks all Irish.
Yeah.
How's he doing? He's my favorite guy.
He is currently fired. He and his best friend were fired by the boss, so they keep running in plain clothes and attacking the boss.
Oh, that's...
And then running out.
Yeah, and then running out.
That's fun.
Yeah, so they're probably gonna have a WrestleMania match against Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, who was recently cleared to come back to wrestling. This whole nostalgia second chance at a first impression idea
because it came back at a second chance for a first impression because it's a first impression to me for wrestling.
Which is
GoPro wrestling.
Wrestling. Food wrestling
is
what brings us here.
Speaking of pro
together.
wrestling, pro wrestling, semi-pro wrestling.
All the
Speaking of wrestling, you know where you can see some live wrestling.
Wait,
Hopefully.
is
this is a ham-fisted?
It's pretty,
Say
he's working on it. Let's have him try.
So the first Saturday in May, if you go ahead and go here, you can hang out with the Steves and I. And there will be some wrestling happening in the parking lot. That's actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Last year, it was a lot of fun.
SPW.
My son was perplexed.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
SPW?
Pro wrestling. Steve's, of course, when you're not there, we'll shut up.
I have more questions. I need to learn about Shawn Michaels.
He's fine.
Woo.
He doesn't woo.
I know,
Shawn Michaels doesn't woo.
That's Nature Boy.
Ric Flair woos.
That was the weirdest match I saw was Macho Man.
He just
and Rick.
walks around going woo.
No, he's
pretty, but really over tanned.
So yeah, if you're interested in pro wrestling, there's also going to probably be some pro wrestling at Grape City Comic Con, which is coming up this weekend, because one of these special guests at Grape City Comic Con.
Why can't I go?
I have no idea. Is the 5-time WCW heavyweight champion, Mr. Booker T.
Oh, shoot.
Which, if there was never...
The only reason I know him is because of Collider.
There's always just wonderful examples of how the WWE treats minorities. We have a black guy. Let's name him Booker T. As in Booker T. Washington, because we're that creative. They're not creative. Anyway.
He seems like a really nice fellow.
That's nothing to do with him. It's just the way they name their characters.
It's memorable.
Yeah, it is. It's because it's a historical figure. Anyway, that's about going to wrap it up for this week's episode.
That's the nostalgia train, I'll tell you what.
We brought it back.
Yeah, we brought it back, I guess.
Yay!
Anyway, my name is David Barry at DR Barry on varying social media platforms. Hey, to my right, we have Eventually Learning Some Wrestling Stuff.
I'm working on it. It's much more complicated than luchadors, even though they have heels and faces too. This is Amy. You can find me at iJaneURobot on varying social media. And Wednesday night, do not bug me because I will be watching Ready Player One.
A heel is a bad guy. A face is a good guy.
Thanks.
I know more than
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's true. Is that your handoff?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Manderson. Been holding down the Portuguese tonight for Steve's.
Are you Portuguese?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay.
I recently found out from my mother that I'm part Portuguese.
Oh.
I've since bought a Ronaldo Portuguese international soccer team jersey.
Wow.
And I'm working on the national anthem. I don't think it actually has any words.
Wait, why do you care so much about suddenly being Portuguese?
I don't. It was a joke that I actually texted to a Steve's and another Portuguese coworker that I have. And they thought it was funny. Granted, that being said, without Italy and the United States in the World Cup this year, Portuguese is in my top 3.
Don't blow the Iron Man quote this time.
What? That was a legit quote. It was just super wide.
Yeah, Tony Stark discovering that he was Portuguese.
Wait, do we get a quote? Do we get another quote from you?
Nah.
Google one while I do the rest of the outro. If you want to find anything related to the K Plus Crusaders, you can find it at thekpluscrusaders.com. We have everything there. If you liked what you've seen and you are new to the channel, hit follow is somewhere up here. You can also subscribe to us. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link it to your Twitch account and subscribe to us for free. That's the word. For free. Anyway, and if you are on YouTube, if you look down below, you can subscribe, comment, so on and so forth. And again, if you listen to audio, then you're already committed, and welcome back. Carry on. Thank you to our sponsors: Computer Booter, your local computer repair, mobile device repair, and retro video game lounge; Empire Comics, best comic book store, in my opinion, in Sacramento. We have a lot of good ones though, so it's really nice to have that kind of selection. They also have hot sauce. If you want to send complaints, you can forward those to complaints@thekpluscrusadersdon'tcare.com. Anyway, Manderson, do you have? Do you have? Yeah, that's what we call you now. Do you have an Iron Man quote?
Sure. This is my Iron Man 3. Can you feel that? We're done here.
Oh,
move out of the way. I gotta run you over. Bye, kid.
Oh, that was fantastic. Anyway, for the K Plus Crusaders, for Anthony Steves at the Azorian One, for Tom at Tall Dark Not Ugly on everything, for Curtis at Calm Down Warning at Existential Romeo. Thank you for hanging out. Good night.
Good night.